Welcome back to another episode of the Sunday Sports Shift, and we are here post Nashville in the studios for the Sunday Sports Shift, and we are back once again for the 10th episode. Of course, things just wrapped up at Nashville Superspeedway, also the Nashville Fairgrounds this week for the NASCAR iRacing FedEx League. We also had lobbies on Friday. So, of course, there's no Grand National Series this race here at Nashville. They had the week off. They'll be back next week, of course. So, Christian Urquhart was the points leader already entering, I guess, technically this week, but there was no race, so he will hold that once again heading to next week. So, of course, the Cup Series was on Thursday from the Nashville Superspeedway. We had the iCar Pro Series on the Nashville Fairgrounds this Tuesday, or last Tuesday, I should say. And then on Monday night, I was actually in the iCar late model race, and I made Cameron Chandler a little bit angry, but we won't really talk about that, what happened there. And then, of course, lobbies, like I said, on Friday. So we're going to start talking about, we'll start off with the iCar stuff real quick. So, first of all, I'll bring in our co-host, Brody Webster. So, Brody, obviously no Grand National race this week, so you guys didn't have any on-track action there. I don't know if you did the iCar races, did you?
No, I did not, but I was, and then because I quit CWR Fat and Friends United, couldn't didn't have enough money to support me going to the iCar race this week, so
Yeah, pretty unbelievable there by Brody Webster. And yeah, so of course that was at Nashville Fairgrounds for the iCar Pro Series on Tuesday. iCar was pretty messy there at the end. Matthew White though made an incredible comeback in the closing laps of that race on fresh tires with about like 7 to go. Drove up I think from sixth or seventh up to the lead and took it from Cameron Chandler easily and usually drove away and won that race. Probably the most impressive win in iCar for Matthew White pretty much ever. What a comeback he had there on those fresher tires. Still very impressive because the short amount of time he had to do all of that. So of course that was iCar. There was nothing on Wednesday. Usually we talk about Grand National now, but obviously nothing happened on Wednesday. No Grand National race. They had the week off at Nashville. They haven't raced at Nashville in now 2 seasons. Weren't here last season at all either. Last race they had at Nashville Superspeedway was in season 3. We probably would have sent them to the fairgrounds, but ultimately things didn't work out there. We had a completely off day on Wednesday, and then of course on Thursday night it was the yearly NASCAR iRacing FedEx Cup Series race at the Nashville Superspeedway. But this year, a little bit different, of course, with the Gen 4 car. Last year we had the Gen 6 car, the only ever Gen 6 race in the Cup Series' history, and then of course the other 3 seasons were run with the next gen car. So it was the third different car ran in the Cup Series at Nashville Superspeedway, which that's the only track that you can say had 3 different cars race at it in the Cup Series, which is definitely pretty unique. So, of course, it was, I would say, a relatively clean race for the majority of it. The first, 110 laps, this wasn't a single incident caution, only the stage break. The first half, there was a lot of good pit strategy. We saw Sean Rowe. We were going to have him for a special guest on the podcast. Unfortunately, he can't do it today. Of course, Sean Rowe took a nice pit strategy while running about third or fourth and cycled up to the lead to win the first stage. Braden Hunsaker, I think he made a bit of a mistake with his strategy. Was obviously leading, dominating the first half of the race, but pitted way too late and fell back to like almost seventh. When he was able to drive his way through the field to about like third or fourth, but still would have been the stage win if he kind of followed what Sean Rowe and others were doing there. So that, of course, was the first half of the Cup Series race there on Thursday. Of course, like I said, the first stage was won by Sean Rowe. Went back green. There was still a lot of green flag racing going on. Brody Webster, I mean, I don't know if you watched it too much, but just hearing about this, were you surprised it took that long for there to be a single incident on the racetrack?
I mean, yeah, I mean, at the same time, no, but yes, because especially last week, wasn't it pretty bad with people on the back wrecking? Um, and normally there just is that in general. I mean, in any race, in FedEx, but again, yeah, pretty surprising, but yeah, I mean, I watched a little bit of the race. I probably watched about 10 seconds and then clicked off because I had had enough of Ethan Trendler.
What unbelievable! That's just not okay. Of course, yeah, Brody Webster being fat there. Probably went to go eat McDonald's or something, so couldn't watch the rest of the race. Anyways, we moved on to the second half of the race. Like I said, went relatively clean. Sean Rowe, I think, had the lead after that. Braden Hunsaker was never really able to cycle back out front, but then we had some cautions come out. I think the first incident caution of the day came out like lap 110 before green flag pit stops were about to start, so that kind of messed things up. Cars came down pit road. under caution to take their fuel and tires. And then later in the run, Payson Lindsay ended up, he was running maybe like 10th to 11th all day long, was managing some front end damage that he got early on in the race, was able to repair it during the halfway break, I believe. But Payson Lindsay, of course, took a bit of a pit strategy to move up to the lead. Took two tires. He did the same thing last week, I guess, at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and it was the same two drivers in the front row. Of course, Sean Rowe on fresh tires with Payson Lindsay on two tires. So Sean Rowe got some flashbacks there. And now we're going to bring in Payson Lindsay. So, Payson, of course, you at the end finished fourth in this race here at Nashville Superspeedway. So, what was kind of the strategy going for you guys to take the exact same strategy as last week, but this time it actually works out?
Yeah, we didn't really have a strategy after we got the front end damage in the first stage. We just kind of rode in the back and were just trying to get track position. And once we went about 20 laps on tires, we just tried our best to get track position. And we thought two tires, my spotter, Aiden Holes, thought two tires was going to be the best strategy. So we took two tires. I believe we were running like eighth or ninth before that caution. And we came out with the lead and ultimately we finished in the top five. So, yeah, really good strategy from us.
Yeah, of course. That was two tires. I was the only driver in the field, of course. Payson, you took two tires. So, like, were you that confident in the strategy after what happened last week at Atlanta?
I mean, yeah, for sure. Last week it probably would have worked. Honestly, we probably could have won the race if we didn't spin the tires on that start and have a slight skill issue in turn one. But yeah, I thought we'd try it again and see what we could get with it this week, and it finally worked in our favor.
All right, Brody Webster, our podcast co-host. You got any questions for our special guest this week, Payson Lindsay?
So Payson, what in the right mind makes you think like two tires and just be confident enough in it to really go with it and kind of throwing up your race just because you know what happened, like obviously you know what happened last week, but pretty much kind of just throwing up your race in the air, um, instead of just being like, okay, I'll take four and like finish where I'm at. So like, what made you have the confidence to really like make that decision to take two?
Yeah, I mean, I think what gave us the confidence to take two tires there was, I mean, not really having anything to lose. Because I mean, I don't want to just finish eighth or ninth on a boring strategy. I want to go up, make it exciting, and try something different at the front of the field. So we did just that, and we came out with a half decent finish.
Of course, Payson, we head to Phoenix Raceway. Maybe the last few weeks, Nashville, Atlanta, and Sonoma, some of those other races, you guys kind of been. I don't want to say not. You have obviously haven't been slow or anything, but not as fast as what we saw. You guys like the speed you had like at Richmond and Fontana a little bit earlier in the season. You guys think you can maybe recapture that kind of really good, almost race-winning speed and maybe get the job done at your home track?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Nashville and Legacy Atlanta, they're kind of two of my, I wouldn't say my worst tracks, but definitely not my strong suits. Like Fontana. Fontana's one of my best tracks. And Richmond, I'm always good at short tracks. So, uh, Phoenix here, it's kind of a mix of, I don't want to say a short track, but it's on the shorter side, and it really fits my driving style because you can kind of use whatever lane you want. So, hopefully, if we can just qualify probably in the top five, maybe top six or seven, we can try our best to stay up front the whole race.
Well, of course, thank you, Payson. We'll bring you back in here once we start to talk about lobbies. But talking about basically the finish of the Nashville Cup race, Sean Rowe was kind of the car to beat in the second half, and he was able to hold on for the win. And he gets his first NASCAR iRacing FedEx Cup Series win. What a great accomplishment for him. It was very, very close a couple times this season, but never really got the job done until now. Gets his first ever win. He's your second, actually your third new winner this season. In just three races, joins Bryce Benton. Obviously, he's had such a strong season. Unfortunately for him, really wasn't the day it wasn't a bad day at all, but really wasn't the day he wanted after coming off back-to-back wins. Finished 10th here at Nashville. But yeah, of course, Sean Rowe is your 30th different NASCAR iRacing FedEx Cup Series winner all time. And he gets the job done for the first time in his career here at Nashville Superspeedway. He's got to be a championship contender this season. I've seen early in the year has really been up there with Cameron Chandler, who finished in third. Cameron has had a really, really consistent season. Of course, currently sits atop of this point standings. by 20 points still over his teammate Bryce Benton, who is still second with even those 3 wins. But Cameron has yet to break into victory lane this season. So, Brody, I mean, it's going to be pretty soon, I would think, for Cameron to finally break into victory lane. He's probably been the strongest driver consistently all season.
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple drivers out there that I think like are really like expected of a win, especially because of how consistent they've been. People like Cameron Chandler, and then you got someone like Braden Hunsicker and Aiden Donahue, and even someone like Payson Lindsay, I feel like is going to end up winning a race. Now, Cameron Chandler, I would say within the next few races is probably more likely than a person like Payson Lindsay, but yeah, I think his luck's gonna come eventually if he just keeps staying consistent and the way he's driving right now.
Yeah, of course. Looking at the top five in points, Cameron Chandler, like as I said, leads it over by 20 points over Bryce Benton. Sean Rowe down third in points. Braden Hunsicker, he is fourth. Of course, had a really good first half. I thought Braden was the car to beat. Probably one of the fastest cars in the racetrack, just never got clean air after that. Matthew White, still fifth in points. Aiden Donahue has just really never had the pace to even contend for a win this season. He's currently sitting in sixth in points. Payson Lindsay sits down in seventh. Axel Smith didn't have a great day, didn't have good speed at all at Nashville, so moved down to eighth in points. Jacob Quayle still holds on to ninth in points. John Butler just broke back inside of the chase. He's the final driver in the chase, P10 in points. Davian Tobin, he's been really strong with speed these last couple of weeks. Got another top 10 at Nashville. Currently sitting in 11th. You got Andrew Stacy, 12th in points. Ashton Miller, really bad, unfortunate luck for him. He had a pretty bad sickness, unfortunately. Hopefully he'll be better for Phoenix coming up. He was unable to race at Nashville. He moved down to 13th in points and out of the chase. Wilkin down there, 14th in points. You see CJ Urban currently rounding out your top 15, and those are the five guys, like I just mentioned, below the chase cut line after Nashville, race number 6 of the season. So, of course, it was, I would say, a relatively okay race at Nashville Superspeedway. There wasn't a ton of action going on. I mean, it was kind of just maybe a calm, easy race getting going to that. But of course, next week is Phoenix. But before we talk about that, we're going to bring in some talk about the NASCAR iRacing FedEx Hobbies. And first of all, we have to talk about Turn 1, Lap 1 at the first race of the night, the Gen 6 cars at Watkins Glen. I'm just going to allow Brody Webster to explain what happened there.
Oh, so basically, Cole Wilson was racing on my account, and he said the tires were really
Not
really
true.
cold. He said the tires were really really cold, and he dove it down turn one, and he hit the clutch pedal instead of the brake and turned left instead of turning right. So yeah, he completely killed the field, and but obviously, like, everyone harmed from it will be okay. And then Cole Wilson, what he does is he comes into the pits, takes his fast repair, and then he kills TJ Moon, the race leader.
Unbelievable actions by Brody Webster. Just insane. He also got kicked for the race after that. And we got to talk about the battle between Matthew White and Cole Clausen for the top spot at Watkins Glen. What a night Cole Clausen had over the IndyCar race at Fontana, the main event in Chicagoland, and then this race in Watkins Glen. He got named an unofficial night MVP, one of the greatest nights in Cole Clausen's career in the league, and that's saying a lot. He's a Cup Series champion, a Cup Series winner. Unbelievable. Never actually got the victory lane though. He was just so impressive. And I think his most impressive performance was the Chicagoland race, where he got wrecked at one time, drove his way back up to the field after getting his fast repair. Unfortunately, got taken out by a lap car, but just unbelievable performance all night long by Cole Clausen. And Payson Lindsay, of course, you were around Cole Clausen all day long. What were you seeing with him?
Which race we're talking about?
What? Wow, lobbies last night.
Oh, yeah, he just I don't even know why, but he had a ton of speed in literally every single race that we did. In the Watkins Glen race, he was, battling up there with Matthew White. We were a little bit further back in that race, and then at Chicagoland, he was honestly probably the favorite for most of the race, until Matthew White and Carlos Ortiz kind of took over later in the race. But yeah, Cole Clausen, he had a really good night, and you can see if he's gonna carry this over on to Thursday.
Of course, Payson, you were in the battle for the win. You actually took second place away with a lap and a half to go in Chicagoland for the main event. Just not enough to get Matthew White there at the end. Like, you were also driving your way through the field. What was the feeling? I know I talked to you late last night, but any other thoughts after all of that?
Yeah, I just think we needed more time. We were really pushing our tires, driving it in deep to the corners. Just didn't have enough time for, one of the best in the league, Matthew White. But still going from 10th to second and was in probably like 8 tenths on Matthew White in those last like 4 or 5 laps. It was really impressive by us. I didn't really think we were gonna have that kind of speed because we were burning up our tires earlier in the run, but P2 still, we'll take it, and hopefully we can get a win next time we do lobbies.
All right, well, Payson, of course, thanks for joining as our special guest this week on the Sunday Sports Shift, and good luck all around Phoenix next week.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Go to freeway.com.
Wow. Anyways, we're going to move on to the final segment of the podcast. It's going to be a little bit shorter because we don't have anything to talk about with Grand National. It is Phoenix week, well, next week, for the NASCAR iRacing FedEx League. Of course, we start off on Tuesday. We got the actual NASCAR Clash that got moved to Monday, unfortunately, because of all the snow at Bowman Gray Stadium. So on Tuesday, we have the iCar Pro Series. They are back at Phoenix Raceway. And the last time we saw iCars at Phoenix, unbelievable finish. Photo finish with Erdman. I think he went to Victor Lane. I think Payson, of course, was involved in that as well. So was Cameron Chandler. So Erdman looking to go back-to-back at his second win of the season as well. Third career iCar win would be as well for him. Of course, then on Wednesday, we have the Grand National Series race at Phoenix Raceway. They are back after, of course, a week away last week at Nashville. They return to the Grand National Series race at their actually first ever race at Phoenix Raceway. They've never done a race at Phoenix. So, Brody, what do you kind of expect from Phoenix Raceway in the Grand National Series?
I think it's gonna be a really good race, but it has the potential to be a wreck fest as well. As you've seen with these Grand National races in the past, the short tracks have not been very good for the Grand National Series, and I think if you're towards the back, you're pretty much going to end up in a wreck or two because of pretty much how many wrecks they normally cause towards the end of the field.
Yeah, of course. That is the Phoenix race in the Grand National Series. I believe the Phoenix race for Grand National is supposed to be under the lights. The Cup Series race will be in the day. I'm not exactly sure what the iCar race is going to be. So, of course, then talking about the NASCAR iRacing FedEx Cup Series, already race number 7 of the season here next week from Phoenix Raceway on Thursday. That's a very anticipated race. I talked to a lot of drivers after Nashville. A ton of them are looking forward to that one. And it's going to be a good show. A lot of drivers feel fast at that racetrack, and we expect to see a ton of contenders for the win like we saw in Nashville, but I think it's going to be even more extreme there. And then we may have lobbies on Friday for week number 40. It would be 3 weeks in a row then. Not sure if we don't have lobbies, then we're going to take the week off after this week coming up, and then we'll be back in, I guess, just about 3 weeks, just a little under that in 3 weeks for lobbies week 40 after Real Daytona Speed Week. So, of course, that is all about next week at Phoenix Raceway. Of course, we were at Phoenix in Season 1, Season 3, and now we're back here in Season number 5. I guess if trends continue, we'll be back in Season number 7 after this. So, of course, we've never actually done back-to-back seasons at Phoenix Raceway for whatever reason, but we are back here once again for Season number 5, and we are excited. 3 different races, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe lobbies on Friday. Not exactly 100% sure on that. There's, of course, a chance of that happening. So, of course, that's all about Phoenix coming up this week. It's going to be a really nice show out in the desert. And, of course, it's going to be Payson Lindsay's home track. Well, shut up, Cole Wilson. Hopefully he'll have a good day there on Thursday for the Cup Series. So, one more final segment for tonight. We're actually going to be going over Ethan Trendler's power rankings after race number 6 at Nashville Superspeedway for the NASCAR iRacing FedEx Cup Series. So, you guys all ready to hear this?
Yes.
All right, let's get into it. So we're going to be going down from 15th, which I have, that's the last driver I have on here, to all the way to first. So in 15th place, I have Jacob Quayle. He was very good early in the season, kind of fell off in the last 2 races. He's down P15. Connor Havrilla, complete opposite story, 2 top 10s in a row. He's going to be in my 14th slot after having a terrible start to the season. Really has come on strongly. Andrew Stacy, kind of been consistent all year, sits 13th. Axel Smith moved down a couple of positions. He's now 12th. Davian Tobin really coming on strong with some good speed. Is P11 for now. John Butler, the first driver in the top 10, actually won the IndyCar race last night in lobbies. He got 10th here. Ashton Miller is sitting in 9th even after missing Nashville. We can't really discredit him too much there. He's at okay speed this season, but still sits out of chase contention. I got Trenton Wilken in 8th place. He's been coming on strong with a couple of top 10s now. Of course, he got another 8th or 7th place finish, I believe, at Nashville Superspeedway this week. We'll see what he can do in Phoenix. Payson Lindsay for me sits 7th. Aiden Donahue sits 6th. Not the same dominance we've seen in Aiden Donahue in the past in the Cup Series. Still has to find what he's missing. Matthew White, probably the lowest he's ever been in any sort of power rankings. Sits 5th right now. Bryce Benson, even with 3 wins this year, really hasn't had a ton of race winning pace on just pure pace without some late race things happening. Sits 4th in my power rankings. Braden Hunsicker looking like one of the best drivers this season. Only still without a win though. He sits 3rd. Sean Rowe, after winning in Nashville, he's been one of the strongest drivers all season long. He sits 2nd in my power rankings and leading my power rankings, still without a win this year, but so consistent, probably the most consistent driver all season long. I don't think he has finished outside of the top 10 this year, 6 races in. It's going to be Cameron Chandler, who is, of course, top of my points, of course, top of the point standings, but also top of my power rankings. So any thoughts on how these all ran out?
I think Payson Lindsay should be lower.
I think Cameron Chandler is a scam and that he's a fraud and he's never going to win this season and he should not be number 1.
Yeah, how is Bryce Benson that low as well?
Yeah,
Well,
3 wins.
I know, but he just finished 10th, so and he basically on pace. So there is some levels to this. Right.
Hey, I think Ethan Trendler should be last because of the amount of times
What?
he's burped right now.
That's not true. Complete lies there by Brody Webster. Unbelievable. But that'll just about do it for this episode of the Sunday Sports Shift. Of course, we got all Phoenix action coming up next week from Phoenix Raceway Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and possibly Lobby's back once again for the 3rd week in a row on Friday. We will see what happens next week from the desert. So, of course, enjoy all of the on-track action next week at Phoenix Raceway. All, of course, as usual, live on the channel. And we will see you next week on the Sunday Sports Shift.